All right. Welcome, everybody. It's the lower bracket time. TSM versus Team Dignitas, and we have Solo.
Quick poll for the viewers.
Okay.
Shaden was in that twice.
Yes.
That's
He
always
gotta
was.
be new. He was not at
It
the
was
start of the
always
year.
there. I
Shaden
used to
was not
laugh
in
about the
twice.
fact that Shaden was in the promo, but not playing for the team. Now he is.
Gaslighter.
Did Armeo
They completely took over.
Yeah,
Armeo in that?
I know.
That's crazy.
Has this been recut? Yes or no in the chat?
That's a yes.
It's changed from the
I
start of the year.
think
It
they've
has to.
changed it.
Production said no.
I don't believe that.
That's
You guys have been here how many times? How many shows have we done? And you've never watched the intro all the
You
way
can
through?
read his
No.
jersey. How have I never seen that before?
Because I don't.
did
You
the
tell
start
me.
for the
I don't know the
first 5
answer.
weeks.
Production
It's
is
been
just
there the whole
instigating.
time.
They're just
Yeah, they
instigating.
have to be.
For sure. All right. Solo.
Hi, Solo.
Welcome to the
This
show.
is what I deal with, man.
How you been, brother?
Badass in here.
How you been, brother?
I've been okay, you know. It's been a little vacation going on, so we got a long vacation for me this split.
Oh my God.
July
Cancun
to-
looking pretty warm right now. Fly out.
So what you been up to?
Honestly, after the season, you got just a bunch of IRL stuff you got to do.
Yeah.
Remembering I have friends and family, stuff like that. But it's been cool. You still get to watch like all the leagues and stuff in the LCS, and still as entertaining as ever.
Was it tougher to keep up with like friends and family this split because there's now 3 games a week?
Yeah, definitely. It was a little bit harder because it was such a roller coaster. I mean, you're just going straight beginning to end, and it was even funnier about that because we had the whole difference in schedule, and I didn't even know that it was it was gonna be shortened until we got to this split. Like day one, they were like, "Oh, by the way, it's 3 games a week." I was like, "Oh, really? It's the same like end time." I was okay. So, but yeah, I mean, it's cool. It was different, but I actually kind of liked it.
Okay.
Because you really just are focused on every week playing, as opposed to just having like a really long, grueling season. So.
That makes sense. That makes sense. That being said, let's just talk about new awards. They got dropped, I think, yesterday. So first things first, which is coaching staff of the split. That was awarded to, drum roll,
Dun, 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 dun.
Golden Guardians.
Yay.
Not too much of a surprise to see them pick this award up. It feels like, given that they were 6th place regular season in spring, but then made MSI, had this big run, and then ended this season tied for 1st with keeping the same group of guys together. So anytime you see improvements with the same group of people, usually coaching staff will kind of get a nod for that.
Yeah, I almost feel like this is very similar to most improved team.
Yeah.
From whatever benchmark you feel like at the start. Like, it's really hard for C9 to win this back-to-back. It's happened before, but they would have had to perform like 16-2 or something.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
couple things. It's that, and it's also like, you're better than I thought you were, which is like,
Yeah.
that's why a lot of people are like, TSM's going to win this one.
Yeah.
I think a big thing too is to make sure it's kind of a reward for having last season not just be some fluke.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, you just did well in playoffs and you're actually not that, not legit. But
Yeah.
So I think they really kind of proved it.
That makes sense. Your team had a vote. Did you know what? I think it was Tactical that voted.
Yeah. Someone made him representative. I don't know how that happened. Tactical is the guy to go to.
Treats was telling us last week that Tactical just went to him and was like, who should I put? And
Oh,
he
really?
just-
He's the
You got mind
puppeteer.
control, yeah.
So they're actually Treats votes.
Okay. Well,
Who'd you
then
give a
take it
shout
up
out
with him
to?
depending on how they went. I actually don't remember what we ended up voting on. I think they're deserving.
Yeah.
I think TSM obviously did pretty well, and I think EG too. Whole new roster, just like a bunch of players that if on paper people have been like, this team's not going anywhere, and then for them to do as well as they did, EG also really good job.
Makes sense. There's another award that came out there, Rookie of the Year, and it was awarded to, drum roll again, Yeon. I think it was like no surprise from people from Yeon, a borderline all-pro AD carry, had some amazing performances, especially at the summer split in comparison to spring. Any thoughts on this one, guys?
Yeah, quick call. M&S is not eligible for this reward due to the number of
Yep.
games he's played in a Worlds qualifying region, which
Yes.
at the time was both Turkey and
as
Oceania.
well.
So Jan and Busio, I think, was his main competition for this award.
Yeah.
But I would say he was a top half 80 carry the entire year, which is hard to do for a rookie to be kind of immediately in a position and be top half of your position for a whole year.
Yeah, and it was interesting hearing Spawn talk about it too, because obviously he used to be Jan's coach, and he said, I knew Jan was kind of good on the team fighting. I wasn't sure about his laning, and I actually think their early laning phase not only has improved a lot from spring, but has been kind of instrumental in a lot of their early leads as well. So
There's other person was APA actually got a lot of votes. I think he
Yes.
tied.
He tied with Busio.
Busio, and apparently Tactical put APA number 1. So there
Wow.
you go. He was very impressed by the Ziggs
No,
play.
we already established Treats play. Tactical's not part of this.
Treats got ulted under tower, and he was like, "That wasn't Yon, that was APA." He was like, over the top.
Yeah, Jan, I think for him, on a team with like so many veterans and established players, I feel like he fit right in. Like watching the games, it seems like this guy just knows what he's doing. And I thought for being a rookie, like he did his job really well. And like you said, he was like an upper half AD carry for the whole entire split.
I was pretty glad in a weird way that he didn't get that many games last year when they were doing a lot of swaps. Because usually that would be the key of like, oh, you're not a rookie anymore. You're not eligible the next split when
Yeah.
you're actually starting. So the fact that he was eligible, I think was a big thumbs up. So
That
good job
happened to
to him.
Ayla. Yeah,
there you
Ayla
go.
wasn't eligible for this year. I think he would have gotten some looks at too, given that. I mean, Flycrotch was a little shaky, but the EG time was really
Ayla
good.
was also ineligible because of his time in Oceania on Order.
Yeah.
Or Worlds
true.
Yes.
Because I was gonna say he played.
He was the
several
MVP of
splits
that
in
league.
in a Worlds
Can't be
qualifying.
rookie after
round.
winning MVP.
Rough. Tough. That's tough. That's tough. Let's throw in the bracket check-in because we're in playoffs, so I want to check in on the brackets. Just any thoughts so far as a reminder to people. It's going to be C9 going up against Evil Geniuses in the second round alongside Golden Guardians and NRG. And we look at the bottom side of the bracket, TSM Dignitas being played today, and the next day, tomorrow, will be 100 Thieves versus Team Liquid. Any thoughts on that one?
Big prove it round for Energy. I think that team's been around for a while, like a kind of core, and I think that this is their chance to like really kind of prove all the work that they've done and make sure that before they've been kind of underperforming in playoffs, and I think that them being able to win against GGS and kind of like secure the upper bracket spots is going to be a big deal.
You're on my side. Ezreal and I were debating whether Energy underperformed or overperformed in playoffs. And I was on the underperforming side where I'm like,
Yeah.
they would usually finish technically lower in playoffs than they did in the regular season. So I agree. Like, it's really cool. That was their first win in the upper bracket yesterday that they've ever had, or that group of guys has had.
Yeah.
But it was over Team Liquid, who people don't know what to make of because of their late games, And so that's why I agree. It's a huge match tomorrow for them.
Yep.
Plus, big
Or-
one more thing, big Energy like Copian thing. They beat GGS. They've always played super well against C9.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
They can make it all the way to finals.
C9 didn't want to face him.
Yeah, C9's gonna dodge them. They have to play them.
Do you think, Solo, I want to get some like maybe hot takes from you.
I'm ready
since
for this.
You're dropping in from the league and you can just say whatever you want and then dip.
Yeah.
Then he goes Cancun right
So when C9 wanted to play the winner of the EG-TSM series, were they dipping more from Energy or for TL, do you think?
For Energy, for sure.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't think they're worried about TL.
Or,
Okay.
or third
got more.
option,
Third option.
they think EG is terrible and they want to play
Yeah.
EG because they did steamroll EG.
That's
They
fair.
do match up really well against EG. Because, I mean, EG is just trying to, like, skill gap people with, like, individual laners, and C9 has, like, some of the best individual laners, so.
So from this current lower bracket, which is going to be TSM Dig, TL 100, who's most likely to make Worlds?
Out of those 4 teams?
Yeah. Because, I mean, it could be 0, but who's most likely?
I think TL's most likely. I would say that. I think all it takes for TL is, like, really just finding comfort for mid, and then Summit just playing really well, getting, like, on some good champs and winning some games individually, and I can see them making Worlds.
Do you have a least likely?
Least likely?
Who you have no faith in.
I kind of have no faith in, like, 100 Thieves being,
All right, there you
Okay.
being able to make it. Just so many, like, they just have so many inconsistencies and holes in their games. I don't think you can win with the style of just kind of, like, wait and see when you're not even that great of, like, a team fighting team.
There it is. That's the soundbite we
Yeah,
need just in
that was
case they
good.
make a deep run.
We'll run it
the
again
editors are going to start cutting it.
Dominic's in his apartment right now. He's posting that on his blog.
We're talking about players, we're talking about playoffs. Let's talk about today's games. Rich versus Hauntzer, top lane. Feels like that's right down your wheelhouse. Let's talk about these two players matching up today.
Champions.
The champion pools, yeah.
Champions. Yeah, I mean, Rich has been like kind of the weird counter pick. Just kind of gets to do whatever he wants as far as draft resources. And in game, he's really aggressive because he's the kind of team carry. And then Hauntzer's been more of that kind of trying to be stable, trying to be a rock. I think that this series today, TSM really has to make sure they don't do what they did in a couple of the losses this season, which is put Hauntzer on some carry champion like Gwen.
Yeah.
And just stick to him being like, tank player, hopefully absorb some of the weird picks, and then just coming for the team fights, because I think bot lane's going to be like a big diff for TSM this series.
Yeah, I think we saw some interesting things come through in the TSM series as well with them just trying to quote-unquote ban out Hauntzer by obviously taking out the Renekton, which I believe the last time he got it was in a game against Dignitas.
Yeah, it's this game right
Yeah.
here. They got the counter pick with the GP, and
Yep.
GP wants to play weak side into this, and usually just like clear wave, and you can scale pretty evenly, and then you can even win the matchup too with some of the trades, but that did not happen this game. Hauntzer clapped him up, and that was, again, like Emily said, the last time Hauntzer ever saw that Renekton pick.
Yeah, so it's like the Renekton and the later the Rumble, just because Rumble is like broken, that EG we're trying to take out. On the other side, I'm really curious to see if Rich will lock in Aatrox, just because going through just his history, when he first really started playing on professional teams, it was the Aatrox was like his go-to. People memed him for being an Aatrox one trick. Obviously, he's evolved since then, but he is very familiar with that champion.
I was going to pick your brain, so what you would do based off what Emily was saying from the previous series, where they first banned out the Renekton, and then he just started slamming Rumble blind, and they didn't have a huge counter pick to it, and then they had to ban that as well, and now you're banning two things against Hauntzer, who people are saying is not like this strong suit for
Yeah, but he's
TSM.
drawing two bans.
But he's drawing two
Yeah.
bans. So like, what would your approach be if you were going up against Dignitas or TSM here? If you're Dignitas, you know, like how would you want to approach the Hauntzer problem?
I do think they're probably going to go with the Renekton ban as they did previously, because Rich has not been that great of like a Renekton player, so it's not like it's going to be contested. It's just going to be that it's up. TSM's going to pick it. And then as far as like the Rumble issue, I don't know. Maybe Rich has some weird pick that he's going to play into it.
What is good into a Rumble? We were trying to ask Treats this, and everyone's like, I don't really know, man. They're like, if you get hit by a harpoon, you lose in range matchups. But you need to play a range matchup because Flame sort of kills melees.
They might just try to do like Jax plus a Juani or Jax plus like a jungler that can really impact early. They might try to do Gnar has been like a decent pick into it, because you can just kind of outrange, and if you survive early and get Merc treads, you can kind of just be able to lane for free. They might just double ban top laners and they can play a tank, try to play Aatrox into it, try to play Alawi, just something weird, you know, just so that you have some outplay potential, because you're right, when you're playing against Renekton and Rumble, champs are just so good that you're not going to be able to just win even if you're like playing better.
What do you think about just leaving Renekton up and playing Quinn?
Just play Quinn every game?
Play Quinn.
They could do that again.
I mean, they've done it, but I know I actually want you to. We were talking earlier about what you think of Dignitas when Rich is on his quirky stuff versus just playing normal things.
Yeah, like one of the things we were talking about before, he's a really good Cassante player.
Yeah.
He's probably one of the best Cassantes in the league, and we saw that in some of their earlier wins, that this is one of the champs he's most proficient at. And even though he does play like these really cool lane counters, and he does well in them like individually, it's just those champs are hard to win on, and it's hard to win on consistently, that I'm not really sure that that's the best route for them. Even though he can accomplish that, it's just when he's playing like Cassante or maybe something's more normal, maybe he'll play Rumble today, that might give him like the better chance to win just because it's simpler.
Yeah, because that other stuff just like doesn't fit the slot. That's something that I used to talk about of like Cassante fits almost any top lane slot because he can be a bruiser, he can initiate, and he's a good team fighter. But Quinn, suddenly the other four people have to change how they play so much. It doesn't matter how good you are on Quinn unless the other four are also playing towards Quinn's conditions. So it takes a lot of practice, and it's something people have to factor in to counter matchups.
But a thing on Quinn too as well, I mean, TSM's kind of been, like their games are pretty chaotic and sloppy, and I feel like maybe Quinn can strive in that kind of environment and be able to just kind of get the weird side lane picks. And TSM likes to play like pretty side lane heavy, and that can kind of counter that type of play style.
Speaking of side lane, because I think a lot of conversation, rightfully so, with how volatile top lane is going to be top lane, but like how draft works for TSM is they'll put a lot of resources, it feels like, within Insanity. So the mid lane matchup is what I'm kind of interested in. So let's talk about Insanity versus Jensen. Let's start with Insanity. He's going up against his former organization because when he was playing in Academy, he was with Dignitas. I talked to him a little bit earlier on, actually. He was saying that he had basically the double revenge angle facing EG. So that was just a cheeky joke. And then now going up against Dignitas. So talk about Insanity a little bit, what he's done for TSM, kind of like your viewpoint on him, because he had like a resurgence in his career, and he's going to be going up against Jensen.
Yeah, I think one of the stronger things that he's been doing is he's kind of been making it so Bugi's job is easier. One of the big things that TSM's just kind of about is just getting mid-prio. And it's like get mid-prio so Bugi can invade, Bugi can, make plays and start fights. And I think actually Jensen's been like, and Santorin has kind of been one of the like weaker mid jungles when it comes to actually getting on the same page and making positive plays together. So that might be a big point of this game or this match where, Insanity is just going to be pushing mid and Boogie's going to be invading. And if they're not able to win those like contested 2v2s, they will lose a lot of pressure when it comes to the map.
Yeah, you see they're second in kills per game for Insanity, speaks to how much of their playmaking runs through him. Not the highest in damage per gold or even CSD, because like you said, it's a lot about just pushing and finding opportunities with the rest of his team. So I feel like it'll be on Jensen, who's usually pretty good about absorbing pressure, even if him and Santorin are not popping off, making plays together. He's harder to exploit, I think, sometimes.
Traditionally, and I think Jensen's flaw sometimes is if things aren't going well around him on stage, he's going to just kind of wait around and hope that they do, rather than really taking things into his own hands. But Jensen is such an interesting player for me, because you can see this split, he hasn't necessarily been that active. Dignitas has been struggling, but I do consider Jensen a very clutch player, right? Like when he's really able to focus and get in the zone, has been in the past the best mid laner. I don't think he's been in that zone since last year on C9, but it's in there somewhere because he's been a pro for so long. So I think that Insanity versus Jensen matchup, if this series is going to swing because of Jensen.
I like that take. I think with Jensen, another angle too is some of the Jayce games he's been playing recently has been a nice touch. I even asked him about like picking up Jayce since it's like it doesn't really feel like it's been a champion that he's ever really played, but he has been like picking a little bit more new, unique champions, at least to him, because of just how the draft is rolling out. And also, if your top laner wants to go for something more creative, then he's been filling a lot. So that's nice to see. It gives them an angle in a full Game 5 series. I'm interested to see what they've been cooking up until this point.
Well, and then by contrast, if anyone's going to be picking some weird stuff in mid, it's going to be Insanity, which is what he's been known for since coming into the league with Immortals, like during his first time in LCS and also during his success in Academy. So it is interesting where like I feel like TSM will pivot and make some weird draft choices. Is probably going to be around mid lane, where for Dig, it's going to be top lane with Rich.
That makes sense. I think at least the story that everyone has been talking about this split, and it feels like it's culminating to this moment, has been TSM and their history. It's easy to get into the nostalgia beats for this team because this could be the last series we see of them. They're in the lower bracket if they lose, and with the video that they came at the beginning of the split talking about this being their final run, means a lot. So even just taking a look at the history of TSM, I think is a really meaningful point. So anything you guys got?
Yeah, there's just so many faces that
Hauntzer
come
Turtle
through this organization. They're back, baby.
Yep.
You couldn't keep them away. But just so many different people have won the dominance that they had when it was 10 straight finals appearances, 6 titles during that time period, and this potentially being their last run. It's really cool to see that they got some of the band back together.
Every time I see this graphic, I just think about how they did Hauntzer dirty in his.
No, that's what he looked like in 2014.
It's making him look shorter.
He grew.
Really bulked up.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like the accolades that TSM have garnered as an organization during their time in the LCS have been really, really incredible.
Some of these organizational accolades are pretty crazy. So like Worlds appearances, second, I'm sure, just to Cloud9. Playoff appearances, 20, which is the record, of course. But like the amount of times that they've gotten to this point and have succeeded, and when they've been counted out, I remember 2020 summer, they were in the lower bracket, they made the run. It's something they can do. Obviously, this is a much. Oh,
no! Y'all told me y'all were gonna bring this up. Why are you talking about this?
No! I forgot.
Cover your ears, Solo.
You're reliving the memories at all times. But yeah, to the point that you made, Mark, it's Hauntzer and WildTurtle still on that stage, have still been putting in a lot of great work. Anything that you guys have taken a note of just their play in particular, this split?
I think Turtle's been surprisingly good for coming back in after being out for a little bit. I wasn't expecting him to be able to pop off and carry as many games as he did. I think Insanity and Bugi naturally get a lot of attention for the plays being made, but the consistent carry that has kind of backed that up has been Turtle.
All right. I know we're talking about some old guys, at least from TSM side. Whoa. Look, I'm just putting that out there. It is what it is. We now have to turn our focus to the other old man, which is Jensen. 8.
Oh, thank God, I thought you were going to talk about
Everyone on this desk, everyone on this desk is over 30. We're all older.
This is the first active pro player over 30 to join us.
Yeah, this is
There you go. I was playing with you guys' hearts.
We need to continue the lower thirds.
That's crazy.
30-year-old to join us on the desk.
That's crazy.
But he's not. We're all 30.
No, but the first 30-year active pro player.
Yeah.
True. But no, we're talking about Jensen. 8 Worlds appearances. It's funny, we went through a lot of videos of Jensen going to Worlds, and it didn't really look like he aged that much. So we wanted to play a game. You're going to be the target here. You're going to get up there and place which image was Jensen
This is hard.
This is
playing in.
really
So
hard.
and the significance of this, these are all years that Jensen has gone to Worlds.
Yes.
It's been the last 8 years. It is a Worlds record. No player has gone 8 times in a row. If Jensen loses, he won't go 9th.
Well, he's also tied for most appearances in general, but it's also the consecutive thing that's huge. So if he cannot win this series today, Jensen will not go again.
Yeah, I want to zoom in more on these faces, though, so people
Let's
can
take a look
play.
at
Zoom in a little more. Let's see these
You guys can
faces.
see how difficult this is about to be.
Yeah.
I think
okay,
the big
start placing it.
The big one is I feel like we got a little fresh-eyed young boy here. I'm put him as 2015.
Dude, this is so...
I'm trying to figure out mostly like when the glasses era started.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the glasses era was definitely in the middle.
Yeah, I'm thinking that as well.
Do you think there's a fake out, like 1 year he didn't have them on for the photo? Because otherwise you got to put the 3 glasses at the top.
Oh man, I'm gonna go ahead and throw this one. I'm feeling these. It's kind of like
Okay.
Oh, he's throwing them in between.
Well, they also have the thing that they're helping is they color-coded his Team Liquid years as well. So there's the 3 Team Liquid
I mean,
years.
that doesn't help the photos at all.
No, but it might help if you're like he was in glasses on Team Liquid, then you can.
Yeah.
That's not what Solo's doing.
This is looking like a very mature.
I like this. I like this.
I'm thinking that's very mature of him. I'm
Another-
thinking the glasses era is more like in the middle.
Should you be factoring in what the hairline looks like?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but also weirdly, his 2016 or one of them goes backwards. It's the bottom right one that you haven't placed yet. Everything goes from right to left of his hairline.
But then he had a weird, a rogue part.
And that's
on the
2016.
upper side.
Whatever that part was just randomly different for that year.
Yeah, he was going
That
through it.
2016
assumption.
photo looks a lot younger than... It's looking young to me right now.
I think you definitely. Are we allowed to help him, or are we just gonna go?
Well, I guess it's only
go on
Solo's list,
suggestions
because
you guys
I
can
can't do this either.
Yeah.
Like,
I think we're
This
good
is
for the reveal.
impossible.
All right,
I
let's
think,
see the reveal. Whoa!
Oh,
Wait, he got it right.
Whoa!
okay, so glasses, it was TL glasses.
TL was glasses.
TL was only glasses.
TL was the glasses era.
Oh, yeah,
But you
glasses
nailed
last
the
year.
first 2.
Wow, you did really well.
It got murky
However,
in the middle.
2017
You got
and
2020. Don't show me this. I'm trying to get out of the other shot. And now you're gonna take me in this. Come on.
2017 and 2021, you somehow
big
mixed
flip.
up. So he
Yeah.
was ageless for those 5 years.
But he got
Yeah,
the
wow.
beginning and ends. He knew how he started, knew how he ended. But the middle is a little foggy.
We knew how we started, how we ended.
I think you did pretty well.
That's
that's
honestly
not bad.
impressive. Good job.
Bravo. Bravo.
I can't wait for you guys to show me one of those in a couple of years.
Solo every years is gonna be good.
Yeah, we'll follow
We'll
the
do
hair
a
length.
solo.
That's true. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
an easy one.
We need to do solo, but what team was he on when this photo was taken?
Oh no.
And some of the teams will be like 2 or 3 solos. Like I need to check Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Because you've been such a mercenary. It'll be amazing.
It will be world
my
appearances.
God.
appearances.
All right, I heard we have a few more fun facts of the last time Jensen wasn't at Worlds. So, like, what happened during this time? So that was 2014, I think that was?
2014.
2014. What happened on the planet the last time Jensen wasn't at Worlds?
7-1.
TSM hands Samsung White only Worlds loss first thing in there.
I mean, it was a significant moment.
Oh, the
TSM fans
seven-
lived off that for half a decade.
They did.
Let me tell you.
They did.
That was their winning worlds for them.
That was the last time they got out of group stage as well.
They
Actually,
beat the team that beat the other teams once.
True.
When they
they
played
got out of group
Sage.
stage. To be fair, during that
They
time
did.
too,
They did.
They actually earned it.
And they're in the Uzi group as well. It was tough.
Yeah.
I wanted to make the call out in the Ice Bucket Challenge because I got nominated twice and I just ducked them both. I am not.
Contributed $0.
I
200
contributed
million.
nothing to that.
Of that 200 million, Raz was 0.
Zero. But yeah.
Blue
A
20.
little golden glue cameo. Who would have
Yeah.
thought?
I remember when they do the swaps
Peak
too.
glasses era.
Oh, of course, it's the glasses.
Yeah. Team Liquid, 3 straight with them.
Maybe that's.
I need to ask him why he only wore glasses on Team Liquid.
Well, and also that was the one year where he parted his hair to the other side. That last Team Liquid year.
It's funny. Go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's crazy too because it wasn't like he just went to Worlds a bunch of times. He was easily the best performing North American player at Worlds
Yeah,
in terms of
a lot of
accomplishments, where he's
Yeah.
gotten out of groups multiple times, actually made it to semifinals with us on that Cloud9 2018 roster. So huge accomplishments at him.
Yeah, it's funny because we talk about it a lot, but the team also talks about it a lot. I feel like I just made a random tweet one day, and Svenskeren was underneath it saying, Jensen hasn't missed a single World. They're just pushing it as a team.
Okay, Raz,
Yes.
I know we're on a Jensen train.
Okay.
But they're the 7th seed.
Yes.
The first Worlds he ever went to, Cloud9 was 7th place in summer.
Oh, God.
They actually didn't even make playoffs. They then made a gauntlet run.
I remember this.
The
I mean,
high
technically,
jungle
this is
era.
incarnation. High ended up jungling in this tournament. They had like multiple reverse sweeps, but he made it to Worlds from the 7th seed. And this is a strange one because I have not noticed much from Jensen this year. Like this year on Dignitas, they lost all those games in Spring Split. They lost less games in Summer Split. But these moments and his entire career, it's been like littered with Jensen beating domestic NA mids.
Yeah, you're talking about the trauma that we brought up for you, Solo. This is mine. this was us where we got 3rd place back-to-back, but it was the first time regional gauntlet was introduced, and C9 did this insane reverse sweep thing, and we were the final bosses of it that he took down to make Worlds. It was really fun.
Yeah. But literally, I saw Jensen in the hallway.
I can relate.
We're going to pull up predictions in a second. Originally, I'd submitted TSM to win in these predictions, but I literally saw Jensen in the hallway. And I was like, you know what? Just like Jensen
vibes.
steps up, and there have been 8 years where if you have Jensen on your team, you go to Worlds. Because he literally just beat every other mid laner when it mattered.
Oh, so we got pandering predictions.
How is this a pander? This is 8
narrative.
years. You're gonna say he's gonna lose in the lowest bracket of the playoffs?
You saw Jensen, and he probably asked you what your predictions were. He's like,
No.
Dignitas, 3-1.
Yeah, just say it on air.
This is literally what happened. I said, how you doing? He said, good. But I was like, really, how are you? And he smiled. He's like, actually fine.
Yeah.
He's in the zone. He's in the zone.
He's in the zone or he's coping.
Any other year.
It's actually fine. I got a flight back home after this.
Any other year, it's Jensen versus Sett. Y'all are too much.
Oh my God. All right. I think we're done here. Let's take it away to the games, guys. See you then.
I think making playoffs means that all the effort that me and my team put in, like, actually was worthwhile. I think obviously we were last in spring, but I think we were much better than what we showed. So I think playoffs is like another chance for me to show what I'm capable of, and then prove to people that we're actually a dominant team.
As Turtle's been pushed out as well. Tomo's gonna dive into the backline, and Tomo's got Turtle.
I was in playoffs the last many splits, and then spring we didn't make playoffs, and it felt really, really bad.
The keeper's verdict to send him downtown, so Hauntzer all alone.
So I really want to make it to playoffs and actually prove that we're a good team. You know, it's first when you hit playoffs that the competition begins, so I'm really excited.
플레이오프 가기 위해서는 일단은 북미 왔으니까 일단 라인전으로 최대한 좋게 가져가는 쪽으로 생각하고 있는데 생각보다 북미 탑들이 잘해가지고 좀 더 열심히 해야 될 것 같아요.
But Rich at least separate Summit away from him with the all-out. How does he keep doing this with Cassante? Rich is a beast on this champion.
I can manage like all of this. I think the team kind of needs the same thing that I was working on when I was on NRG/CLG. So yeah, I'm excited to go back to playoffs and demonstrate my skill and leadership.
I think there's a lot of reasons why we failed in spring, but I think most of all, like, we failed to find identity as a team and really figure out how we wanted to play together. I mean, for me personally, I have a legacy to uphold, so playoffs is very important. Oh, and I don't miss Worlds.
And now the shock flash knocks across multiple members. Jensen goes forward, and Rich gets a kill on the Quinn. Sunday's on the run, but Sunday is down, and Tomo's in the back line. He knocks down another.
The crash down the Fade Seal, that's the Wombo combo there, but delivery straight to Rich with the Emperor's Divide, and Palafox gets burned down.
Rich wants to fire back a little bit further now, and Vulcan's gonna die. So is Impact, so is Pring. Dignitas going in, but Santorin won't be able to get any more. The Sun Disc keeps him protected as Tomo's ready for the chase. He's got red, he's got purple, he's gonna mow him down. Double kill back over to Aphelios, and the completed ace for D. You need me like you need air to breathe.
Well, Welcome to the LCS. It may be the second week of playoffs, but it is the first week of elimination territory. Dignitas taking to the stage for their first best of 5 of Summer Split, while TSM are operating on their second life after falling to the lower bracket. I couldn't be more stoked to get into it. I'm Gabby Durden. We've got Kobe and MarkZ for a wonderful TriCast to kick off these elimination matches. How y'all doing?
I mean, Jatt was talking on the desk how he talked to Jensen, and Jensen was like, I'm feeling great. WildTurtle's got his WildTurtle smile on pre-game already. Hasn't had to even win yet, so I think TSM's also doing great.
Yeah, I think TSM are definitely the favorites. You know, the Discord was 60-40, it looked like, in the fan voting. Yeah. I was surprised it was even that close, because I feel like...
Because I knew you were going to troll your vote, but then Jatt also joined you.
Well, yeah, that was the crazy thing. I was like, I'm not alone on the side of Dignitas, because I think TSM, you know, the 5-game push that they had against EG just last week was very impressive, as well as the fact that I think individually this split, almost top to bottom, they've had arguably better performers, except maybe Rich over Hauntzer, which why I think a lot of people favor TSM in this matchup.
And jumping into the picks and bans here, I want to see what they do with the AD mid laners, the Tristana and the Jayce, because they're so highly prized right now because there are a lot of options like the Maokai you can run from jungle to supplement them. And one of them is going to get through right now. TSM, one of the biggest things that they had versus EG was going into that game with the pre-planned strategy against it, you know, giving it up, playing the Lucian into it, and then all of TSM playing around Insanity in the mid lane to keep down JoJo and give them that big win in game number 1 and that clearly focused win con. This time around though, already they're target banning Rich instead. So like many people, they have identified Rich on Dignitas as the one that sticks out. Aatrox got some really big buffs. And for those of you that don't know, Rich in the LPL played a ton of Aatrox. This is still his most played champion of all time for his career.
The other interesting part from that first ban phase is the Renekton, but no Rumble ban. That was something that EG ended up picking up towards the tail end of that series because TSM will just slam it for Hauntzer. That is indeed what they've done. The priority has gone up more and more. We'll see if they actually end up blocking this in, but I think there's a concern of a takeaway coming. So normally in that series, they were taking it in the 2-3 spot and EG was prioritizing other things. Here we'll have to see what Rich has in store because we were asking Solo, we've been asking people, hey, what's good into Rumble? And it's all cope. It's all cope answers. No one has a real good counter, so we'll see what they want to do.
Well, Rich always has something spicy planned.
Exactly.
If something has been learned this split, it is that Rich will love to play some counter pick that has not been pulled out on stage yet. I get my answer to my first question though. There's the Tristana I was talking about for the AD mid lane and pairing it with the Maokai, just like I was talking about. This is the bread and butter. AD mid lane, Maokai coming from jungle. It is still so good because Tristana gets his hard pushing lane. Maokai scales into really good objective control for you later on and brings that AP threat.
And generally speaking, we are looking at that veterancy of Santorin and Jensen on the side of Dignitas to be able to push them through this best of 5.
Yeah, we'll have to see if they can step up going against Insanity, who's probably on that Jayce pick. And then they also have the Ezreal, which was something that started to show up as well. Just last week, that was more in the NRG series that FBI was playing it, but it looked pretty good, and I think convinced a lot of people to give Ezreal maybe some more attention.
Now, the Ornn actually is one of the tanks that has looked the best if you can look good into a Rumble. Rumble lane phase is always pretty annoying to deal with, especially with the buffed up harpoons, magic shred, landing both of them up to 40%, 60% now, and the percentage health damage. But Ornn has a decent time as far as the tanks go, and Dignitas are clearly stating, we are going to scale to some massive team fights. Now they're going to have Ornn ornaments as well, backing up this very solid team fight. TSM, though, they've got the double poke with the Jayce Ezreal, and the Ezreal I've actually liked as we've seen it emerge in the last couple of weeks.
And we've seen plenty of LCS players like WildTurtle that have been playing since the beginning of the league always be able to revert back to that Ezreal and the threat that he opposes. And I am curious also to see how Rich does perform on the Ornn, someone who has brought through a lot of unique picks through the regular season, but it is his best of 5, his first one in the LCS, and a lot of times you'll see that comfort come through.
Well, and the nice thing about best of 5s is you can take risks in your first couple of drafts and kind of adapt and see where things are going. Leave up the Rumble. We don't want to overreact to the series last week. We'll see if this option works into it. Maybe they have a second option, which is more lane focus that they can try. Here, the other thing I like is Rich usually has pretty good itemization, and I know a lot of people feel like these support items do counter out Rumble quite a bit, whether it's Locket or Redemption, and Ornn is a champion who can sometimes opt for those cheaper build paths and building more team-centric. So I would love to see where Rich is going to go with this, if it will be more tank-focused or if he'll dip into the support itemization.
And they take away the other prime engaged champion still left up. With Nautilus and with Rel both banned, they yoink the Rakan here. Don't want to let the extra CC go over to his TSM side. And Dignitas, they're set up, I feel like, with such a solid draft so far, but we get the Lillia finally. All right, and it's a TSM Lillia.
Speakers watching, sweating.
The classic TSM Lillia coming out. Chime, who I think has been really underrated as a support this entire year, pulling up the Sett too, with so many of our supports really leaning into the Sett. It must have been running rampant in those scrims.
Yeah, I like also initially the takeaway from the Rakan, because that was also Chime's best champion by quite a margin. So he's going to back it up with Sett, and then the Zeri coming in, something that has been hit into the ground repeatedly, nerf after nerf, cropping up yet again here in Tomo's hands.
So the thing I really like is when we have clearly different paths for both teams based out of Champ Select, and TSM have just tripled down on their poke path. Now Lillia, you don't immediately think is a poke champion, but she really is.
Yeah.
With the points into Swirl Seed later on, you kind of go poking and fishing for Swirl Seeds down lanes, and if you hit people, you can put them to sleep, and then they get killed with Shock Blast, Ezreal ultimate, all this long range poke, Rumble ultimate coming down as well. So TSM have really built this very snowbally poke composition, complete with a jungler that does have a very fast clear speed here, whereas Dignitas, they're going full-on team fighting here. They've got real solid front to back with double AD carries and a massive front line.
I know that both teams coming into this portion of playoffs have been trying to be unified as a team, make their statement in game number 1 that they can stick to a clear game plan, and we'll see how it goes. All right, TSM and Dignitas here in game number 1. As Kobe mentioned, lots of poke to look out for TSM, but Dignitas ready to scrap it out. What do you think we should be looking for, Mark?
I think the thing that jumps to mind is the mid lane matchup, not just with the history that we were talking about with both these players and Jensen attending Worlds and all that stuff, but also the matchup. We saw in the Team Liquid NRG series how swingy it can go depending on how you're playing. If you're able to E the Triss out of her rocket jumps, these kinds of things, it could be a nice chunk on the Chime here.
Yeah, Chime's definitely taking damage and already has to heal up. Gonna get the opportunity to back.
Did force a pot out though, so a small little advantage there. I wasn't sure if they're gonna keep chasing. They were a little worried about how much was around them.
Yeah, I was actually a little surprised with the lateness on that potion, because if he had plenty of time to get back to Fountain and fully heal.
I think it's about time we get some coach perspective in as TSM make the play.
Hey, thank you very much. As I'm here with Enetron as TSM throws the level 1 invade. I know you're wanted to watch this closely, but I do want to ask you how the draft played out from your perspective. I know Lillia and Sett are some less common picks.
I mean, for sure, TSM came with some new surprises, right, compared to the last game they had, the BO5, but I think we are really prepared for anything they might throw to our way, so I'm really satisfied with the draft we're having here.
Right, and what do you feel like the biggest win conditions are going to be if Dig takes game 1 here?
Oh, I mean, depends a lot on TSM what they are planning to do once we are taking the game, right? But I think we are pretty satisfied with how we are approaching this series overall. Of course, I can't leak too much, right, going into the next games, but whichever side, we are ready. We have 2 weeks, and we're ready for it.
And real quick, Svenskeren, I got to ask you, you're going up against TSM. Is there any added fire to try and take down your old team?
Yes, of course. We're going to shit on him.
All right, thank you very much. Let's send it back to the casters.
I love the confidence coming out of Sven there, knowing what he wants. Big trades in the bot side, but I do want to highlight what happened during that time. We saw the Lillia invade. One of the things with this 4-range composition is basically range with...
Stunned up a Poome! First blood drawn by Chime.
Underrated no more, baby! flashes right in there on the set. He gets payment for his potion. They made him blow the potion on the level 1 mark. He gets it back in extra.
Not relying just on the Rakan pick either, showing he can do it on the set as well. Huge first blood out of TSM there. Comboing with the invade that I was going to hit on with them. The fact that the Lillia clear speed as well as the range advantage allowed them to take top side of the jungle and stop Santorin from being able to grab that red side buff. So he only got a single buff, only got the Raptors away before he was forced out from Bugi coming back down to that bot side.
Yeah, and I want to take a moment to talk about Bugi and how much he has done for this team, because he's another player that does a lot of setup work for TSM, as we'll get a look at the replay for the kill first. So we saw the exchange here early. Poome uses both his E's here. Tomo cleanses the ignite, so we know so much is burned. Poome no flash now. No cleanse on Tomo. Chime's looking for it. As soon as Poome moved up to the minion wave, he sees it, flashes in, knows there's no flash on the Rakan, hits him with the snapback, and uses the minions to ensure that he gets the stun. Now we're going to see Bugi here go towards mid. And
spending lots of time mid. Yeah, Chime coming in as well, but not going to be able to collapse.
Bugi, though, he has the highest kill participation of any player in the LCS. TSM do not do a whole lot without him, but it's because he does so much. Over 80% kill participation because of how active he does get in the early game, as well as how much he sets up this team for team fights.
Yeah, absolutely huge for their playmaking, something that Lillia can bring. Obviously, once you get 6 is the biggest part.
Flash over the wall. I'm knocking them together. Jensen already burned to half HP. Haymaker thrown out, and Bugi's made his way to support Insanity and Chime on this push. Flash forward, ushers the rocket jump away from Jensen.
A little bit over-aggressive there by Insanity. Saw an angle to potentially land a hammer form Q and try and slow them all down, but not able to get it done. Nice Q there by Santorin, actually, to knock Chime's Haymaker cone off of Jensen and keep him a little bit healthier than he would have been if he took that damage there. So nice little play there. Yeah. Nothing comes from that skirmish except a flash, unfortunately blown by Insanity.
I'm actually shocked we didn't get any emotes after that. There was no Pepega Frog. There were no question mark things after that for Insanity. But trying to wrap around that banana bush sometimes is a little awkward, and Jensen just rockets.
It's playoffs, Kobe. They're taking it more seriously. Emote games turned down. Not everyone's JoJo.
I do feel like in the beginning when elimination comes into town, there are less emotes to be seen on the Rift.
It's a mental game, though, Mark. I mean, if you're not playing the mental game, then you're losing out on possible.
To be fair, Dig didn't emote either. They should definitely be the ones spamming. Insanity could also be like, I don't need this flash emote. You know, like neither team stepping up to the emote game.
The more time you click buttons to emote, the less time you're clicking the buttons to win the game, Kobe.
But emoting is winning the game.
Oh, man, what a rabbit hole that we could go down on this one. But early lead, though, for TSM as far as where their focus is getting them, reverting away from the emotes and focusing on the gameplay. 1,000 gold. That first kill was given over to Chime, again, making up for the pop that was popped, but still playing aggressive here on the bot side. I mean, Kobe, you're talking about the proactivity of Bugi and what he's been able to offer, and we've already seen him bringing that attention to mid and beyond.
Yeah, and Chime has really been looking like a bit of a Giga Chad himself on this Sett support, which has really gained popularity. I want to see, since it is going to be bottom side now for Bugi, if he starts to fish around. Generally, you want to get to your level 6 here on Lillia, and then you start throwing out some angles for lane ganks where you can fish with the swirl seed again. And if you do get those hits, you can put them to sleep and have someone like a Sett follow up. But Bugi's just coming straight from the Krugs because they got a lead on Poome.
Chime pressuring Poome to dash over the wall. Gives a chance for some sweepers to be drawn out by TSM, clear out the ward just thrown. So continual pressure on the bot side means a little bit of a loss in the gold lead as the other lanes are being given the chance to farm up when they see that vision on the enemy jungler.
Yeah, not much focus has been topside despite how much we talked about the Rumble and what it's going to do. It does have a 12 CS lead, that's quite nice, but there's been way more focus on the skirmishing around mid lane and bot side. Chime was pretty low level 3 at roughly 6.5 minutes from all the roaming that he has done thus far. Now getting a little bit more experience in the bot side, but Bugi's still focused on counter jungling out this Maokai, holding Santorin down. Believe not quite going to hit 6 off this, but continuing to try and get his advantages individually.
And starting to see some of those ultimates come through. WildTurtle hitting 6 and then Insanity at 7 to match the 7 for Jensen, who is able to reach that as well. So with this dragon spawned and still not taken, those tools are available to the teams.
And Chime has been working with Bugi for the past like 2 minutes straight here. Almost duo jungling with him and getting full vision through bottom side. The wave is pushed at the moment, and we're about to have Rift Herald spawn in 10 seconds. Nice little attempt here from WildTurtle on another champion capable of getting those cross-map snipes. But Jensen is not sleeping at the wheel just yet. Game number 1, Mark. He's not tired. He's had his caffeine, sees it. And
like Jatt said, he's feeling good. He said he was feeling good about it.
He does seem like he's in a very light mood. When he came into makeup, he sat down and then asked for anti-shine, and he was just like, why is it called anti-shine? Oh, wait, anti-shine. I get it. Like, Jensen, where are you at going into this game?
Well, here comes the Rift Herald that we are talking about. It's a full rotation up from the Dignitas bottom lane. And you can see on the minimap right now, TSM made the call. WildTurtle is heading up on this Ezreal too. He doesn't have his ultimate to fire from down there, but he should be able to arrive in time. And if they're making him move, then TSM have probably made the call that they want to fight this. There is a Scryer's Bloom, but they're just too late.
Play already had by Dignitas to secure the Rift Herald, and Poome wanting to create distance. Facebreaker by Chime after flashing. Tomo activating the ult. Drowsy locks onto 2 of them, but too much distance to be able to follow up. No kills.
You saw TSM try and force that engage a little late. Insanity was resetting, not quite back in range to take that fight. And so while they did find some engages there, Chime was not 6 to ult someone back into the middle of his team. By the time the Drowsy was enacted and they fell asleep, both members had disengaged far enough back that TSM couldn't actually chase down through the front line.
Yeah, that one to me just looked a little frustrated. Like, we made the macro call and we were just too slow. Now we can't let them get away with this, right?
Gotta do something.
Exactly. They've taken the Rift Herald. We got to force something. They do trade some flashes here. Like maybe you can follow up something on Santorin now. The Maokai has no ult, has no flash. Had to use those to disengage, but Dignitas very happy to be able to get that Rift Herald, considering TSM's success already they've had in the early game so far. Definitely something that could be a big comeback here for Dig. Meanwhile, Tomo.
And Chime coming through as fast as he can with that knuckle down in case WildTurtle does want to go for some additional pressure onto Tomo, but none to be had.
Definitely wanted to highlight grabbing that Rift Herald is pretty huge for Dignitas. We didn't talk too much yet about the scaling for each team. I think it's probably Dignitas favored with the Ornn, with the double marksman, just the way the team comp's going to play.
Rich responding, Call of the Forge God, locks onto Hauntzer, throwing out some flames of his own to force Rich back and some healing.
Not able to get any kill threat down there, just pushing him out in the lane a little bit. But to this point, you know, Dignitas do have a lot of scaling. Taking that Rift Herald away is huge, given the fact that they were already down 1,500 gold just from laning disadvantages that will stem any kind of snowballing from TSM.
And this TSM squad, especially with rolling a first dragon Ocean Drake, that would be huge for a poke comp to be able to continually throw out skill shots here through the mid game. Does so much. Ocean Dragon, one of the best early dragons as a first dragon. All of that extra sustain for all of your lanes here definitely does a lot, especially with, knockback here. Jensen kind of pushes Insanity out as they have a teleport coming in, so Insanity gets a free little walk right back here. Dignitas invests the teleport from Rich. Not that big of a deal with the minions on top side, but Dragon still picked up for TSM, so they are full steam ahead here, almost to the 2K gold lead mark, and they can really start to now bring together those synergies you know, as soon as they start to get these single item power spikes.
Speaking of some of those synergies, the Lillia Sleep and Rumble ult, you can actually just tick them down with the burn without awakening them. It's a really strong combination that Dots can have with Lillia's Sleep. Another small thing, because I am such a huge Lillia fan, going for the Roa build, it looks like most likely. We'll see if that's, yep, there it is, completed there for Bugi. There's a lot of debates about which one. The Liandry's tick rate with her passive burn is pretty crazy how much damage it can do, but given that there's not much other frontline other than Chime, who is a support tank, it's understandable to go a little bit beefier, and it is a very strong option for the Lillia.
But that Rift Herald previously grabbed by Dignitas will now be dropped down on the mid lane. Turret still available with the plates at 12 minutes. Gets the crash, cannot be stopped by TSM.
Definitely cashing in on the expected value here for Dignitas with that objective for themselves. Meanwhile, those one-item power spikes are starting to come through for both sides here, with Tomo getting a static shiv. It's so nice for the Zeri in her current form to be able to deal with a lot of this wave clear so much more quickly. Meanwhile, a little bit of a jungle chase here. Bugi using his support. Chime has been hand in hand with Bugi. It's been one of the clearest things of the TSM strategy coming in this game, has been those two linking up, this Sett creating so many plays for him.
All down bot though, WildTurtle pushing off Tomo and Poome, who are going for the play. A little bit of wave to keep Turtle under some protection as Chime makes his way as fast as possible. Does not tag with the True Shot Barrage, keeps his life, but did use the flash.
Did get the flash burn, but for TSM, not too bad, if that's as bad as that tower dive could have gone. And I did like to call out about working with Chime there, the fact that they have gotten 3 consecutive buff steals, 1 on every single spawn. It was red to blue to red again. Chime working with Bugi to kind of keep accelerating Bugi ahead of this game. Now 10 CS lead, a little bit, not too bad.
Yeah, and Lillia is definitely one of those junglers that getting accelerated returns a huge reward because of her clear speed. And because if you take down some of these defenses, makes it so much easier. We've already seen some of the bowling ball swirl seeds come down the lanes, fishing around. If one of those hits, then you get, you know, a sleep into instant kill on somebody and then try and turn that into an objective.
And while I know it was mentioned in the Dignitas sideline coach interview that it's a bit of a surprise to see Lillia coming through for TSM, I feel like it's not a surprise to see TSM in general flexing new picks. We have not just looked to Insanity for his pool, but the way that the coaching staff is trying to lean into the individuality of these players and their willingness to bring up new strats. The Lucian in their previous series against DG, now one of the first in the LCS to bring the Lillia through that I know we've been anticipating for some time, but continued roaming from Chime. I think that a lot also mentioned him in discussions of some supports that are underrated and now clearly serving a purpose in the way that he is facilitating his jungler.
Yeah, he's done a very good job of being proactive on the map. One of the people that I think we all unanimously had on our most snubbed, well, we were saying who just barely missed the All-Pro battle. I think all of us had him down there. So someone who has quietly been rising up the ranks of support players and so far having a good game, making a name for himself, finding a lot of engage opportunities here.
And speaking of him, he's up there on the Rift Herald. Objective focus for TSM. You see the duo for Dignitas have made the call. They're going to try and stay bottom side and pressure the secondary tower on the bottom side while they give up that Rift Herald.
Down bot, lots of trouble to be had. Teleport coming in, and Insanity is all on his own versus 3. Ornn drawn, does manage to get the knockup. This whole time, though, TSM focusing onto the Herald on top side, picking it up. Down bot, Nature's Grass coming in from Santorin, and the root directly onto Chime's face means that it's Insanity that's lost in the fight.
Oh, what a nice W there from Rich. Immunes the Sett ultimate from Chime to try and take him under tower. Now we look at what they're going to do with that Rift Herald that they acquired, but I think it's a very good job for Dignitas exacting some payment for that Rift Herald. They commit to the bottom side play. They don't want to fight over the area TSM already have vision of. They don't want to fight over that Rift Herald. They make good on their dive there. Insanity now no flash on the Jayce, as well as being able to pick up the kill. Let's take another look at it.
Yeah, you can see they have Insanity down the bot side while they're 1-3-1 setup here, but just so much playmaking and Jayce less mobile, so pinned underneath his turret. Poome has to engage there. Would have gotten out if Dig did not also commit the rich TP, but there you see the W from Ornn immuning the Sett ultimate. Probably could have got a kill on Rich if he was pulled underneath the turret there with turret aggro, but they're all able to escape also with the ultimate coming in from Santorin.
And in that time, TSM dropping the Rift Herald onto the mid turret to take one down. Tomo pressuring on this top side to make this top side turret the next one to potentially fall, but of course Hauntzer's here to answer.
And if you're top side, guess what? TSM gonna take another dragon. They already have the Ocean, so this one should be number 2 for TSM. Dignitas, they clearly keep on making these cross-map plays. They do not want to fight TSM at the moment, so trying to get as much as they can while TSM continue to take those neutral objectives.
I do really like this though from Dignitas. Heads up understanding of, hey, this composition out of TSM is going to be really annoying around neutral objectives, not just with the poke, but also when they decide to go in. If they land that swirl seed from Bugi, they drop the Rumble ult on top as well. And we're not at our item power spikes yet. Rich is not handing us out these ornaments yet, so let's just keep scaling how we can. You can see the gold lead has not grown at all from that 1,000 gold lead that we saw basically at 10 minutes. So this has been a very good mid-game so far out of Dignitas of just avoiding TSM.
Oh, Insanity fired up though. But that is an Ornn here down bot, just defending this wave and more. In the end, it is TSM, though, whose gold lead has somewhat minimized because of those aggressive plays that Dignitas have to set themselves up for that scaling that you are mentioning.
And there's a couple of areas where TSM could try and increase that gold. Bottom side turret, of course, is super low, and that one's kind of just standing there. But also, they made the rotation on the answer back top, and Hauntzer will be able to get this outer turret. So not only do they get top outer turret, bottom side outer turret is also very low, and Bugi's about to steal another buff, or attempting to at least.
Pressuring Santorin best he can, but Poome is trying to wrap around, sped up, charms one, knock up to follow, and Tomo's here to continue with the damage. Ornn Horn gonna be able to knock up two. Tomo going into the backline with the lightning crash, double kill for Tomo, looking for more. Santorin picks up the kill onto Hauntzer, and it's 3 down on the side of TSM.
And Dig say, that's one buff too many, Bugi. Not this time. Huge kills for Dignitas inside their own jungle. Big defense there. This could be the swinging point in the match, because this is usually the time where some poke comps might start to lose steam if you give too much gold over to the team that has all the hard engage, and they know it. You see the movement here from TSM. They get really antsy as they see the rotation over. They know they've been caught with their hands inside the cookie jar.
And this is just the perfect shooting fish in a barrel angle for Rich there to just send that Ornn ult straight up this pathway. No way for the TSM members to get out of there. 3 kills handed over. The saving grace for TSM is that this was at 18 minutes. 2 minutes later, this is a Baron game might be over. They do get a chance to recover because now it's just a small gold lead swung in Dignitas' favor.
But they should still be so scared, because the biggest downfall of poke comps is always hard engage, getting those big breaks onto your team. And like you said, Maokai ult plus Ornn ultimate plus a Rakan, that is as hard as the engage gets.
Yeah.
So they've got to really watch out the positioning here.
Speaking of positioning, Poome trying to act aggressively against Bugi, and now Chime wants to find the angle onto Jensen. Nature's Grasp has been thrown out. Should be able to get the root onto one. Equalizer in response, but Chime too low on health. Eradicated in the fight. Insanity soon to follow. Jensen jumping forward to make sure he can get the double kill. And Dignitas officially stripping the gold lead in their favor. WildTurtle flashing away and healing at that. Jensen feeling good to set it up for Tomo to knock down. Dignitas is getting fired up.
Jensen said, I'm still gonna keep up my world streak. No problem here. And honestly, this is what it looks like when a hard engaged team does get the advantage over the poke squad. They fail to snowball really in the early game, and now Dignitas, they're just picking them off left, right, and center.
Dignitas looking good to close out game 1 here, grabbing the Baron as well. Just such strong team fighting, not just from the composition, but how they're playing it and how they're building it. The double Radiant Virtue, you saw Hauntzer drop his ultimate, was hardly doing any damage with these multiple heal ticks coming through by both the tanky frontline members. TSM are contesting this. A little dicey.
Because now Baron's an option for Dignitas. Now Dig are committing to it. Just a downtown swirl seed from Bugi. And a late delay on the True Shot Barrage means Dignitas secure the Red Bull Baron buff.
And now the emotes start to come out. I was
Yeah,
looking for them earlier. That's one of my favorites
gold
too.
lead's
The
enough.
thumbs down. The thumbs down emote from Rich as they take the Baron, and they know they have this one in hand.
Cowardly. They had to wait till they knew it in hand to begin the emote game. You emote from minute 1, not after the lead.
I don't know. I'm just glad that we got some kind of emoting in this game thus far.
Yeah, now this is huge for Dignitas off the reset here to break the Dragon stacking out of TSM. They have the gold lead, they have the Baron buff, they have the hard engage. All this stuff leads to what should be a Dignitas win, but they still need to finish checking these boxes. This next one being, do not let the Dragon stacking continue, because then that starts giving them an angle to get back into this game.
Yeah, so to play it hard here, or the more difficult angle is how did TSM get back into it? And it has to be one of these plays where Lillia is going to get a big sleep into Rumble Ultimate that kind of cooks them while they're sleeping. And that has to be on Jensen. I mean, because Tomo has Cleanse up right now. So Jensen really, if they're unable to get this magic engage and kill this Tristana, it's going to be hard.
Here's the attempted start. Tomo, Lightning Crash activated. Poome looking for somebody that he can lock on to. Hauntzer gets rooted in the center of him, and Jensen has come to the party from mid lane. Finishes off Hauntzer. 2 already down for TSM. Santorin rooting on forward, and a double kill for Tomo. Don't need a cleanse to be able to get into this one. Insanity flashing away to make his way back to the fountain. Dignitas only losing one and getting so much in return.
Wow, they might be able to end the game. 20 seconds left on spawns. They're burning down through this turret with the double marksman composition. I guess that's one way to stop dragon stacking, is just try and end the game. They have the reset come through, actually, so probably not going to try and end this one. Just going to fall back to that dragon, which is up, grab it, and a huge engage there. Even well played a little bit by TSM. Chime stopped the Ornn ultimate by CCing him, so he couldn't get the R2 to actually lock people down, but you still saw how quickly Bugi melts, despite the slightly tankier build of the Rod of Ages, just melted by Tomo there.
Yeah, he got annihilated, and they didn't even need Rich's ultimate. Chime was able to pull Rich back, so he didn't get Ornn 2 activation, but it doesn't matter. Digger's so far ahead, and they have more CC where that came from. Flash in from Santorin to finish it. Everybody getting real deep here. This is why I really love watching when teams in a best of 5 will opt for some strategies like this, though. Because if you do go a full poke comp like that, and you know you're playing a risky game and you want to snowball early, and it's very exciting because there's a lot of tension. Can they keep this up? When it gets cracked and you lose a bunch of gold that early on into the game, and it is revealed that no, they cannot keep this up, and they are just going to get hard engaged on over and over again, then it is a quick end to that story, though.
It's Dignitas with all the gold in their favor now. 5,700 and continually pressing forward. You have those supers already pushed up on the bot side, but TSM mostly having to offset the pressure of Dignitas, who are full stacking on top.
Definitely looks like it's going to be easy for Dignitas to close this game out. Do want to give a shout out to Tomo. Despite the slightly rough lane phase early on for him and Poome, he has been huge in these fights, starting with that one at the red buff to start picking up kills and playing well. When Dignitas was with a winning record in the first half of the round robin of the regular season, a lot of it was because he was one of the consistent carry members for the team. Rich was the big playmaker, grabbing a lot of the attention, but Tomo was having very good Aphelios games as well. And it does feel like someone who will need to step up if Dignitas want to make this kind of playoff push.
Equalizer here in response to the Nature's Grasp, but TSM not locked down by it yet. Showstopper into the backline and Face Breaker to follow up, but it's still all live standing. Poome effectively knocked out of the fight because of his low HP. Jensen going in with a rocket jump, wants to finish off Hauntzer. Eventually, Tomo manages to do so, and Dignitas, they've already taken out 2 members of TSM. Chime marked down low, but Poome and more have to be careful because they did take a lot of damage. They'll be able to take the inhibitor here on the exit.
Teleporting in, too. They want to keep the pace up.
They keeping it going, and Chime, Turtle, and Bugi just have to corral together because it's their Nexus turrets that have creeps on them.
Classic top laner moment.
Yep.
He's like, oh, let's go end it! Teleporting into the Nexus! Oh, okay, you guys need to recall too? All right, fine.
You're all at 20% HP? Okay, fine.
Honestly, though, I do feel like this game is kind of a game where Dignitas are like, you know what? Rich, you've had all split long where you get to play whatever you want in the top lane. How about we just try for playoffs, check the ego a little bit, just play the Ornn into the Rumble. This game's not really going to be about you, and we'll handle it. And that being in a game 1 in a best of 5, I think is very, very good for Dignitas as far as their future in playoffs. Not having to rely on those extreme counter picks that you're used to seeing from Rich.
It's really interesting for both reasons. Individually for Rich, he actually has been very good on tanks when he ends up playing them. It's just the team felt like they need more firepower, I guess, during the regular season, which is why you saw those crazier counter picks. But here, down 60 farm, willing to take a slightly losing matchup to play something for the composition. And then for Dignitas as a whole, yeah, this totally throws a wrench in how TSM play the game.
Oh, Hauntzer caught out though here, which means TSM are already down 1 and should have more to fall into the grave to follow. Double kill set up for Jensen. Rich already burns though and eventually eliminated here by Insanity, but Insanity mark it out, but Jensen is just too much damage for him to handle. Tomo looking to get the lightning into the veins of WildTurtle, and eventually a double kill and ace for Dignitas here, ending game number 1 with a statement from mid and beyond. Dignitas are ready to take on playoffs in stride.
Big upset in game 1. The 7 seed Dignitas looking to take down TSM, coming from the winner's bracket, looking to make them lose again. And for Jensen, for the 2nd time in his career to try and make World from the 7 seed, starts out looking pretty good in game 1.
Definitely did look quite good in game 1. Under control, it felt like Dignitas they did not lose their heads when they're like, oh no, this poke comp is trying to snowball against us. They just made the call. Every time TSM are going to go to one of these neutral objectives, you know they're going to put extra people up towards the Rift Herald or down to the Dragon as it spawns. They take something on the opposite side of the map. They take their cross-map play, and then when they got their teamfight defense in the red jungle, they just use their greater engage here on all these champions with the hard engage and chase them down and get the solid victory. This is how they ended it out. This one's not really gonna put much of that on display. They're so far ahead in money right now. The double AD carries can do whatever they want because they have 3 beef balls in front of them, just setting them up for kills. So Tomo and Jensen are having the time of their lives, jumping in on everyone else. Tomo dashing forward to finish off the last one as, Dig are going to collect the win here. But I think this really does say some very positive things about Dignitas with more options available to them in playoffs.
Yeah, I know that in multiple interviews they've talked about we feel like we are a best of 5 team and we want to be able to showcase that in the series. But that does mean we have more games to come. If you're looking to switch things up a little bit when it comes to the broadcast, remember, Viva la LCS. LCS en Español is the official Spanish language stream of the LCS. This new viewing experience is live on LLA's Twitch and YouTube channels right now. So scan the QR code or go to lolesports.com to learn more. For now, let's head on over to the LCS Lounge to break that one down.
Welcome back, guys. I'm going to be VoD reviewing here with Solo on this game, a big Dignitas one. First question to you is just, how did you feel about the draft?
Yeah, I thought Dig kind of drafted the most greedy, we'll wait and scale. We're not afraid of your early game type of draft. And TSM's going for that mid game, early game. Once they get one item, they can just wipe you off the map at any fight.
Sounds good. And you wanted to take this from the perspective of TSM, right?
Yeah, so, Dignitas this game, they played really well at just absorbing the pressure, trying to find plays on the other side of the map. And I thought TSM was doing an okay job of getting the individual leads in lane, but really their macro kind of suffered and some big mistakes where if you're playing a comp like this, you need to be tight on your macro and be able to get advantages and objectives.
Sounds good. Let's roll the first play. Your focus was going to be on Insanity rolling up to Herald?
Yeah, so, early on, Herald, big point for this team. You need to get as much gold and objectives as possible. And we saw that in this game that Dig was able to get it, which is kind of criminal when you're playing against Jayce Rumble. And we get this good chunk here. And I think right now is when Insanity probably should recall so he can be at the Herald on time and just be on the map, since this guy's 20% HP, he's not going to stick around. But he stays, and not the worst thing ever, but to go into here and stay even longer, clear this pink. Now they see this guy is, on the map. He's got no resources. Guys, what are they doing? We have bot push coming already. So they know that they can get the Herald for free. And I feel like this is kind of the mistakes you can't make when you're playing Jayce Rumble is you can't just give them free objective because your macro is bad or you're playing your tempo bad.
Yeah. So they end up getting Herald here. I feel like TSM did a good job at stopping first Herald from crashing into turret and getting gold onto Jensen. Main point is do you feel like TSM is that much on a timer?
I think that you just eventually you will get outscaled and you will lose a fight, and the amount of gold you have up until you can get Soul is really the difference maker. And even though they didn't get a ton of gold onto someone important, they just got it onto Santorin. Limiting how much of a gold lead that TSM have is kind of the main goal. You just want to slow them as much as possible, and we see that later on. We have now is the time they're doing well. The lanes are winning for TSM. It's they're building a slow lead. They got a dragon. Things are going well. It could be a little faster. And for some reason, they go for this lane swap where they send Jayce bottom lane, which I don't really fully understand because they have the completed item on Ezreal. It looks like they're just going to be able to lane fine.
Yeah.
But now they put him bot lane, and I get the idea is, hey, we're going to play for second Herald. We want to put our bot lane mid. But what ends up happening is this guy can't pressure the Zeri. It's not like the Ezreal and the Sett can really take tower on Tristana. And so you're weak siding your Jayce, who needs to be one of your strong points. And then if you fast forward, they get the tower for free. This whole entire time, TSM's getting no free gold. By the time they even start the Herald, they're already on the tier 2. And at this point, it's a very sad time to be the Jayce. You have no vision. You're just completely weak-sided. And this is guaranteed gold. The amount that they're going to get from Herald is not really as significant as how much they're going to lose from having Jayce die and even potentially losing the bot tier 2.
Okay, last question. Just viewpoint of the series. You just lost in the fashion that you did against a scaling composition like this. What is your, if you were in a position like this, what would be your response as a team? Do you run this draft right back off of these errors and just saying we can patch this up and go into the next game, or do you make a drafting change?
I wasn't really that big of a fan of the Lillia Sett, so I feel like you could probably switch some things around there. But yeah, this is a big point. I mean, you got to ask yourself if you're TSM, if you're like, hey guys, we could have just played a little bit better. Maybe you have first game jitters.
Yeah.
You know, we were doing well in lane. Let's just play a little bit cleaner and maybe be a little bit more aggressive. We can win. So pressure's on them. I mean, they have to decide if they're going to play more scaling or if they're going to just run it back and try to play early.
That makes sense to me. All right, great adaptation. I'm interested in seeing what the adaptation is going to be for TSM as they're going 0-1 into the next game. We'll see after this break.
Huddle. We win.
Noobs. Opposition is basically ranged with.
Another Poome! First blood drawn by Chime. Tomo, lightning crash activated. Poome looking for somebody that he can lock on to. Hauntzer gets rooted in the center of him, and Jensen has come to the party from mid lane. Finishes off Hauntzer. 2 already down for TSM. Santorin rooting on forward, and a double kill for Tomo. Don't need a cleanse to be able to get into this one.
Red Bull gives you wings. Red Bull gives you wings.
The last time I won it was 2015, and I've been, for the last 8 years, trying to get that feel again, because when I got it back then, it almost felt like it was just supposed to happen because I was in TSM. And then I'm finally so close, but second place. I'm like, can I please just lift the trophy again? And that's all, that's what I'm playing for.
Down, Tomo has to flash out of the fight, and Impact is coming from the jungle to get one last swing onto Diamond, grabbing the kill and wanting to go for more.
Into the pin, Santorin blasted back into the pin, but a beautiful ulti to get himself back to safety and kill Victor off in return.
Make sure to use LCS Summer for $10 off your order of $15 or more for new diners until the end of the split. Terms apply.